Thanks, Megan, and welcome to Hannity. This is a Fox News alert. Hurricane Matthew is closing in now on Florida. It is a Category 4 hurricane with maximum sustained winds of 130-plus miles per hour. Now, on the ground, we have in Sebastian, Florida, tonight is our own Steve Harrigan. Steve, I see that wind's picking up. The rain's picking up. What's going on?
It really has, Sean. We've seen those gusts of wind go from 40 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour. Some branches down, some small trees down, and some power lines down. 25,000 people without power. It makes your knees buckle a little bit at this point, but the real stuff is still 3 or 4 hours out. The big question is whether we're going to see the eye of that Category 4 storm with its 130-mile-per-hour winds make a landfall on Florida's coast. If it does, Governor Rick Scott has warned that it could be catastrophic. A similar hurricane 10 years ago killed 25 people, caused $30 billion worth in damage, and this area is even bigger. 1.5 million people across the state have been told they had to evacuate. People were on the move all day, packing up their medications, their water, their food, their pets and cars, moving to hotels or relatives, boarding up their houses before they leave them behind. A lot of people told me they are really concerned that when they come back, there might not be anything to come back to, especially those manufactured houses. They could be wiped out by this storm. So the next 4 or 5 hours here are really critical. Several counties have now established curfews. They are concerned about two things: the possibility of looting, and also when these power lines go down with a lot of water on the road, it could be very treacherous. Moving around now, extremely difficult, and getting more difficult every hour. They've had those shelters full up completely, and now with it so dangerous to move around, those doors are shut. People being told to ride it out at home if you haven't taken shelter somewhere else already. Sean, back to you.
All right, Steve, thanks so much. Stay safe out there. And to all our friends in Florida, please stay safe. And we hope you batten down those hatches if you didn't get out. Also on the ground with the very latest out of Palm Beach, Florida, or Palm Bay, Florida, is Phil Keating. Phil.
Hey, Sean, we're right on the outskirts of Melbourne, and from Melbourne up to Cape Canaveral, that is the latest targeted bullseye zone of where this eye is likely going to be making impact in the wee hours of tomorrow, anywhere between 2 a.m. and about 5 a.m. It's supposed to be very, very bad. Where we're standing here on the Indian River, you can see the palm trees are picking up. These are wind speeds undoubtedly hitting 50 miles an hour at this point. By the time it gets to its peak power potential and impact along the coast here in Brevard County, we're expecting that Hurricane Matthew will be dropping 110, maybe a little bit stronger winds far inland, further west than the I-95 corridor. The hurricane wind speeds extend 60 miles in all directions from the hurricane eye, and the storm surge is projected to be anywhere between 7 and 11 feet. And that means not only will the barrier islands across the intracoastal here, you can still see there's lights on the barrier islands out there. So electricity remains in effect up here, and that's a great thing because it's very miserable during a hurricane to lose power, and you lose air conditioning, and you lose your television, which can really inform you of exactly how bad it is and where you should not go. But curfews are now in place in Orange County. That's Orlando. As of 10 o'clock tonight, everybody should not be driving on the road. Police will be enforcing that. Seminole County, that actually kicks in tomorrow at 5 a.m. and up the coastline from us in Brevard County, or north of Brevard County, up in Volusia County, where Daytona Beach is, all the way up to Jacksonville. Those counties are also imposing mandatory curfews right now. If you didn't go inland, it's time just to stay indoors wherever you are and hopefully be safe. Sean?
Hey, Phil, we're only at the beginning of this, and I'm looking at these winds behind you. You say they're sustained now at about 50 miles an hour. This is only the beginning, and they're expecting winds 80 miles per hour stronger than what we see going on behind you, correct?
That is absolutely correct. And every single hour from here all the way until at least 7 to 9 a.m. tomorrow, it will be increasing. And this part of the coast, this Florida Space Coast, will be feeling the brunt of it. Then, of course, this very slow 13-mile-an-hour moving hurricane heads northbound, and the eye looks to appear that it's going to basically hug the coastline, which impacts even more people as well as roads that could all be flooded from this storm surge. The good news down south is that the storm first impacted Miami-Dade County this morning and Broward, while the hurricane warning has been lifted for Broward now, and the conditions definitely improving in Miami-Dade and Broward, although, as Steve mentioned, there are still upwards of 25,000 people still without power in the 3 southern counties of the state, which includes Palm Beach County as well, the most populous part of the state of Florida, incidentally.
All right, Phil, stay safe out there. Pretty chilling, Mother Nature, as you watch all of that. Thank you so much. Joining us now in the Fox News Weather Center is our chief meteorologist, Rick Reichmuth is with us. Rick, what's going on?
Hey, Sean. Yeah, worth noting, we never expected to see the hurricane conditions in Miami. That warning was just to the north of it, and the north of it is where we're going to be seeing the worst. There's Vero Beach, 49-mile-an-hour winds, hurricane-force winds just offshore, but they're getting much, much closer, and we're going to see that in short order. That right there is likely the band that we're going to be seeing winds pushing 100 miles an hour. The center of it is a very, very small area that has those 130-mile-an-hour winds. If we see that center get on shore, then we're going to see those 130-mile-an-hour winds. Hopefully, we see it just stay offshore, and that would be great news if we end up with that. But at this point, we've got a Category 4 storm, and it's going to be very close, I think, especially to that area around Cape Canaveral, that Space Coast, just because it sticks out there. That might be all the difference there of a landfall or not. But you get the idea. We have a very long track storm here because it's going to hit so much territory. When you think about when you normally have a hurricane make landfall, it comes straight on shore. Right where it comes on shore is where you have the most of the damage. All of the first responders, all of the people who go in to take care of the damage is in one isolated area. But because we have a hurricane that's going to hug the coast for such a long time, it's going to be really widespread. I just wanted to show you this. The pressure, which is kind of what drives the strength of this, has been very low. We've had a major hurricane now for almost 7 days with this. That's a record in the Atlantic, and it was very, very low when it hit Haiti, broke up a little bit because it hit Haiti and Cuba, but now it's back down to 937. It's lowered even in the last hour. Because of that, when it moves on shore, the winds are going to be strong. We're going to see significant power outages, severe right along the coast, but even inland, we're going to see power outages likely all the way in towards places like Orlando and up towards Gainesville. The other thing we know is we're going to see a really significant storm surge, probably like we have never seen there across this area, and especially Georgia, and then in across northern parts of Florida, maybe about a 10 to 12-foot storm surge. We also know we're going to get a lot of rain on top of that. So take a look at this. Jacksonville, 12 inches of rain likely. South Carolina, Georgia, I think those are going to be kind of the bullseyes with some spots maybe up to 15 inches of rain. And that's going to cause a lot of flooding as well. But here you go, Sean. Storm is getting very close and likely making this northwestern jog, getting very, very close here to the coastline within the next few hours.
All right, Rick, thanks so much. We'll be checking in with you throughout the night. Joining us now via Skype is the CEO, founder of weatherbell.com. Michael Barak is with us, and he is in Singer Island in Florida. What do you got, Michael? What are you seeing?
So, Sean, I'm about 10 stories up on Singer Island, juxtaposed into the middle of the ocean between an inlet and the ocean. And I've been watching all day. The winds have been kind of sustained around 30 to 40 miles an hour for the past 5 to 6 hours. And it looks like the outer bands of the eye wall are just about to make their way in. So conditions are kind of going downhill right now. I'm going to open the door to take you guys out to the balcony, and you can kind of get a feel for what's happening here. I don't know if you can hear the wind and the howl.
Wow.
I wish I could show you some video, but it's dark now. It's sunset. But it does look like the actual eye wall is just going to clip us. It's a little bit to the east, and the hurricane's been making a little bit more of a jog to the north than to the west. And so I'm a little bit more concerned about the areas to the north of us where we've been talking to some of the other people on your show. Yeah. So I think Palm Beach is going to escape most of the damage here. I've noticed that the ocean hasn't come up at all.
Yeah. All right, Michael, we want you to stay safe there, and thanks so much for your input. We appreciate it. Joining us now, With more on this deadly hurricane is chief meteorologist, long-term friend of mine. Weatherbell.com is where he works, Joe Bastardi. Joe, you know more about the history of hurricanes than any human being on this earth. This is the real deal. Is it going to hug the coast or is it going inland?
Well, I think it's more, unlike what I told you about 4 o'clock when we were talking about on the radio, this may hug the coast more. And what I'm really concerned about, too, is that over the past couple of hours, we're seeing the pressure start to fall again. And yet this is accomplishing this, but there's actually 2 eye walls with this. One that's 60 miles across, believe it or not, and then there's an eye within an eye. And the fact that it's continuing to, pressures are continuing to fall with that kind of structure, usually what happens is as it approaches the coast, the outer eye wall contracts in and enhances what we call convergence, or the coming together of the wind at the center, and up goes the air and down goes the pressure. So over the next 6 to 10 hours, the barometric pressure in this may fall down in the 920s. It tightens up and you'll see the wind speeds pick back up again. It's a two-edged sword. If it goes inland just to the south of the Cape, it weakens on its way up the coast, but it batters everybody directly. If it stays offshore, then as the National Hurricane Center was saying earlier, I see they've lowered it to a 3 off Daytona Beach. It could stay as a Category 4 all the way up to Daytona Beach. So it's almost like a pick your poison. Unless it can miss by 50, 60 miles like it's missing Michael to the east, which we don't think is going to happen. We think it's coming in within 10, 15 miles of the coast, maybe over the coast and on up A1A, so to speak. You know, you're going to get just the most devastating hurricane you've seen in the Space Coast.
Let me take us through. Obviously, we're paying a lot of attention now to Florida as this is about to hit land. Really, it's the beginning of this is now unfolding before our eyes as we can see. So we're very close to land. Whether it hugs the coast or goes inland, we're going to watch, wait, and see. But it's also going to head up to Georgia and the Carolinas. Walk us through what the path you think this is going to take.
Well, I think it's going to stay just off. Yeah, once it comes by Daytona Beach, it'll be just offshore, east of the mouth of the St. John River, maybe 20, 30 miles. 20, 30 miles east or southeast of Savannah, maybe 30, 40 miles south of Charleston before it starts moving more seriously away from the coast. That won't be till Saturday night or Sunday. What's interesting about this is all the heavy rain is near the center of the storm now. Once it starts breaking east of north because of the processes in the atmosphere that are taking it northeast, there's a trough picking it up, upper air trough of low pressure, cooling the atmosphere with all this tropical moisture. The excessive rainfall switches to the northwest side of the storm, and you'll find that even though the winds are very strong in Savannah and Charleston, I'm expecting 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts in Charleston and 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts on the coast in Georgia, that the rainfall is going to suddenly become the biggest story in there, where you could see amounts of a foot and up to 18 inches. In fact, if this hugs the coast the way we think up to Charleston, Wilmington is in that boat too.
Wow.
And what happens, Sean, is you push water back into these rivers and these inlets, and then it starts pouring rain. The water starts coming back down the river, and you just get excessive flooding. So that's a part we got to consider.
Weatherbell.com. Joe Bastardi, thanks so much for being with us. We're going to continue to monitor Hurricane Matthew as this deadly storm now makes its way right towards the Florida coast and up the coast. We're going to check back in with our reporters that are on the ground. Also tonight, Donald Trump, he had a town hall in New Hampshire. Laura Ingraham will join us next with a preview of Sunday's second presidential debate, which is a town hall. That and much more on this busy news night here on Hannity. This is Fox News Alert. We continue to monitor Hurricane Matthew as it now bears down on the east coast of Florida. But first, earlier tonight, Donald Trump, he had a town hall in New Hampshire where he addressed rumors the event was a practice run for Sunday's presidential town hall debate with, of course, Hillary Clinton. Take a look.
And by the way, they were saying this is practice for Sunday. This isn't practice. This has nothing to do with Sunday. We're just here because we just wanted to be here. And, you know, Hillary, frankly, they talk about debate prep. That's not debate prep. She's resting. She's resting. And I want to be with the American people. I want to be with the people from New Hampshire, and she wants to rest.
Just a short time ago, I spoke with Laura Ingraham about the debate and much more. And joining us now is Laura Ingraham, nationally syndicated talk host, Fox News contributor, and, of course, editor-in-chief of LifeZette. Congrats. LifeZette is doing amazing, and congrats on that.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. So here we are we've got a town hall debate. A little different, obviously. You've got two moderators apparently arguing over who gets to beat up Donald Trump this time, who gets to be the third wheel, trashing Trump and attacking him. But putting that aside, what is the approach? What is Laura Ingram's best advice for Donald Trump going into this type of format?
Understand that the moderators aren't really moderators. The moderators are there to ensure that you lose the presidential election. I mean, that's the goal. So just know that going in. They're not your friends. They're probably not going to be fair. So don't even worry about that. And when people are recognized in the audience, and I understand they're thinking of giving a question to a child who's undocumented, and the child might ask, what's going to happen to me? Those types of questions are likely.
Okay, well, let's start there. I like Mike Pence's answer the other night. The first thing we're going to do is it's sort of like you have a leaky boat. You got to build the wall. You got to secure the border. That's first and foremost. Next thing, criminal aliens out immediately day one. The third thing is, I think there'd be time for the American people to sort through all of this. Whether or not it's touch and go, meaning go and come back, whether or not you let other people in first and people get in the back of the line. I think he has to answer. What would you say? Because Hillary Clinton's offering free everything. I'm a student. My student loans are so high. It's so expensive for college. I'm going to spend the rest of my life paying it back. What is your plan for me?
I think the best answer for Trump in that regard, Sean, is to say the number one thing that we have to do on the domestic front, other than enforce our laws, enforce our borders, is to get this economy going again. We need real growth. Hillary Clinton's plan will not help you. You think debt forgiveness is going to secure your future? Your future is going to be secured if you actually have a job you can go to every day that pays you a decent wage. My plan will ensure that people who want to work are going to have a much better shot at a job that pays decently than Hillary Clinton. Stick with the status quo, keep spending all this money we don't have, which will ultimately be disastrous for that generation. They're going to have to pay it back. We might be gone, but they're going to have to pay it back, Sean.
I think you'd agree with me, too. And you could bring up $20 trillion in debt, $125 trillion unfunded liabilities. I guess the next thing, he should not be on defense. If the birther issue comes up, I've already answered it. Hillary attacking him, it's sort of like Reagan, there you go again. Here comes the robotic list. While you're worried about that, I'm worried about getting the millions more on food stamps and in poverty and out of the labor force back to work, Hillary. You can focus on attacking me and what I said 20 years ago. I think Mike Pence showed they can make that list again and again. It's not where the country's at right now.
No, they've had their chance. And Hillary had her chance. She and her husband got really rich after they left the White House. They've done really well. It's time to send them into retirement. They had their chance, and it didn't work. The country is begging for real and refreshing and optimistic change. And Donald Trump has to stay with that message. Do not go down these rabbit holes. Don't start getting defensive. Don't start talking about,
so
women
when she
or
brings
past
up Trump,
women. Don't even do that.
She brings up Trump University. She brings up what he said about women 25 years ago. She brings up he didn't pay taxes. She brings up, run down the laundry list that he's said nice things about Vladimir Putin. My answer would be, okay, I've already answered that. Let me tell you what this election is really about. You could pivot any way you want. You don't have to answer any of the questions.
Exactly. I would say, Hillary, we're on to your game. You did pretty well with it, with the media that's compliant and are all on your side. But I'm focusing on the people who are watching this today. It's not about Trump University. It's not even about Laureate University that your husband and the foundation were involved in.
with.
It's not about that. This is about the fact that America is flatlining and then ultimately in decay if we don't turn this around. I have a plan to do it. You're going to do the same stuff that's kept us in this flatline position. That can't stand. And I would flick it away like an annoying gnat. That's what Pence did. And by the way, he's gotten even better on the stump, Sean. Don't you agree? After that debate, Mike Pence is he's on fire.
Energized.
I think he's doing awesome.
We had one last night. I thought he showed a lot of energy, a lot of passion.
Great interview.
I also thought that, look, I would think it's a lot of pressure. Somebody chooses you, has faith in you, and you don't want to let that person down. And he certainly didn't. He won that debate. All right, last question. I think they should be talking about immigration. the economy, about foreign policy, about vetting refugees, about Obamacare.
All of it.
I think about energy independence, about education. But I suspect that Anderson Cooper and Martha Raddatz are going to want to talk about, are you going to allow women to have abortion? What do you think about gay marriage? Those questions will come up. How do you answer those? And that's my last question.
I would say, and I think Mike Pence handled it really well. You know, we're pro-life. We believe in protecting the most vulnerable in our society in the womb to natural death. And we're going to stand up for the vulnerable. And the vulnerable also include the American family and the American workers. And you can try to distract them from the major issues that they care about. But I'm going to stay on these like a laser beam, from Obamacare to educational choice to prosperity, and renewing the idea of safety and borders and nationhood. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it every day for the workers, not for Hillary's big donors, but for the American families and the workers who've been really ill-served by bad leadership. I think he stays on that. I think the anchors will look increasingly irrelevant, Sean, to the discussion if they keep picking away at these old scabs. I just don't think that works.
All right, Laura Ingraham, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it. And this is a Fox News alert. Hurricane Matthew is now a Category 4, and it is now barreling towards the Florida coast. Back with us on the ground in Palm Bay, Florida, is our own Phil Keating. Phil, I can see the winds picking up even since, what, 10 minutes ago?
Yeah, the wind's picking up just a bit, and the rain has increased substantially since our last live shot. You can take a look up in the lights. It's really blowing like sideways, this wind coming off the Indian River, which is the intracoastal here, connecting the mainland of Florida with the barrier islands. Here is US 1, which is exactly how emergency responders want it to remain, and this is what they were hoping to see. Empty, no cars, everybody off the road, not trying to drive it anymore. If you're further up north the coast, you still have time to head out and head inland further. But once you are here in Brevard County and just south of us, where Sebastian is in Palm Beach counties, it is not the time now to be getting the road and getting out in your car or truck and driving around trying to get out, because it's too late. You should have evacuated 2 days ago when the governor requested everybody who lives along the coastline evacuate inland. That's 1.5 million people in Florida currently under a mandatory evacuation. And this here is the story that everybody in Florida is going to be dealing with from Palm Beach County north all the way to Jacksonville and the Georgia state line over the next 24 to 36 hours. Increasing wind, increasing rain, a lot of storm surge, 7 to 11 feet high, street flooding very likely, as well as loss of power and electricity. All right, we only had about 25,000 people in the southern part of the state lose power today, but up north, Daytona Beach, Cape Canaveral, Melbourne, heading up to Jacksonville, it could be a whole lot more widespread. Sean.
All right, Phil, stay safe, and all our best to our friends in Florida. Joining us now on the phone is the mayor of Daytona Beach, Derek Henry. Mr. Mayor, our thoughts and prayers go out to all our friends down there. What's going on?
Well, thank you very much, Sean. We've just been busy trying to prepare our people, trying to encourage them to evacuate. We feel we've had some success, certainly not as much as we'd like, but certainly we've worked hard at it.
Yeah. Do you feel that the people that maybe didn't listen to the admonition to get out, do you feel that you're going to be able to keep those people safe?
Well, we're certainly going to try, but we can't have the certainty that we'll be able to do that. There does come a time when a storm like this, if it hits you, as we're sort of anticipating, that the first responders will not be able to respond.
Yeah.
So we're still afraid, but our first responders are still out busy assisting people with evacuation, even as we speak, and they will do that until the conditions warrant that such is unfeasible.
The sad thing is, Mr. Mayor, the worst is yet to come. We're talking about 130, 140 mile per hour winds here. Storm surges possibly everywhere. Electrical power is probably going to be gone. Do you anticipate that you're going to need a lot of help and assistance in terms of water and food and supplies for the people in your city?
We certainly do anticipate it, and I have already been on the phone with folks from FEMA in discussions about how we can expedite that assistance, and certainly we're going to need help from our neighbors and friends, receiving a lot of well wishes from all across the country, but certainly we're expecting that we're going to need supplies, support from power companies, just you name it, all the things that go.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I can tell you this. The American people are the most generous people on earth, and I have no doubt whatsoever that whatever help and assistance is needed in the days to come, that your fellow citizens are going to be there for you. You're in our thoughts and prayers, Mr. Mayor. All the best. We'll be checking in later in the program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And coming up, we'll check back in also with our reporters as Florida now bracing for Hurricane Matthew, Category 4 hurricane. We'll also have political news tonight. We'll check in with Austin Goolsbee and Eric Bolling. They'll join us next to weigh in on the 2016 race as we continue tonight right here on Hannity.
The way I look at it, the middle class has been forgotten in this country. Taxes are too high. Jobs have been taken away from you. A lot of our companies, a lot of great companies have left our country. We've gone to Mexico and other places. China is making so much of our product. We don't make product anymore anywhere near like we used to. And I will tell you, it's such a great question because our middle class has been treated so badly by the politicians. I mean, it's like forgotten.
Donald Trump in New Hampshire just a few hours ago talking about the economy. Earlier tonight, he spoke about this very topic with Eric Bolling and Austin Goolsbee. And joining us now, he is the co-host of The Five, our friend Eric Bolling, and there he is, former Obama Council of Economic Advisors. He helped push us into the ditch we're in now. Austin Goolsbee is with us. You know, I recently was interviewed about you, and I said all these nice things. I actually lied and said all these wonderful things about you.
You didn't lie. I have a football signed by you that says, Austin Goolsbee, you are a great American. It's one of my prized possessions.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. It's a private. You have a picture of you and Obama and then my football right next to it, right?
It's right there. I'm going to send you a photo of it.
Oh, why don't you tell Obama to do my show? He's leaving now. He's got nothing to lose.
I agree. He should do your show.
All right. He's not
be respectful.
All right. So we talk about the economy. If I'm Donald Trump and Hillary drops her kitchen sink laundry list, which is, oh, Donald Trump said this 20 years ago. Oh, Trump University. Oh, Donald Trump didn't pay a contract. Oh, whatever it is. If I'm Donald Trump, this is what I'm going to say. Hillary, I said, we've got 12 million more Americans right now that are on food stamps, Eric, because of Obama and your policies. We've got 8 million more in poverty. We've got the lowest labor participation rate in the 70s. That's what Americans care about, not what I said 20 years ago.
And every poll, every exit poll indicates that that's what Americans want. Every demographic of every American wants to talk about the economy. They want to talk about jobs and the economy. Even if you go to a nonpartisan site like Gallup and say, what's the real unemployment rate? They're publishing an under 5% unemployment rate, the BLS is. If you go to Gallup, they'll tell you it's 9.7% because of exactly what you said. If you've given up looking for a job, you're not counted anymore. Well, that's ridiculous. Also, this week we're finding out that Obamacare prices are soaring. Do you know we spend $2.1 trillion on health care in America? And that's 30% more since Obamacare was signed into law. 30% more in about 6 years since Obamacare was signed into law. And it was supposed to bend the cost curve down. We spend more on health care than we spend on food, on automobiles, on every single thing except for a home.
Well, now we've got United and Aetna and even Blue Cross Blue Shield California, for example. They're all pulling out because they can't make money in it. And the average American, many lost their doctors. Many, Austin, lost their plans. And since Obama's been president, the average American's not saving $2,500 a year. They're paying $4,100 a year more. How do you justify your trust in government when, just like Social Security, the money wasn't put in a lockbox, you didn't keep your doctor plan, and you're paying a hell of a lot more and not saving a dime? Why do you trust government so much?
Well, it's not that I trust government so much. It's that if I just look at the facts, Eric's talking about prices are up 30%. That's the slowest inflation rate of healthcare costs in a half century. You're failing to remember that before there ever was Obamacare, healthcare was growing 8.5% per year for about 45 consecutive years. So the fact that it would have gone up $8,000 and went up $4,000 is something to be happy about, not upset about.
A year since Obama's been president just for healthcare.
Yes, prices go up in health care. They have been doing so for 50 straight years.
He promised we'd save $2,500 a year.
Look, he said you would save $2,500 a year. And in fact, you've saved more than $2,500 a year.
If you're paying more, you didn't save.
$8,000 higher if we stayed on the old system.
You're playing with statistics. Unfortunately, they don't add up.
I'm not playing with statistics.
Here's what adds up.
He's using Washington calculator.
Of course. I mean, we can play those games all you want, but the bottom line is
the inflation rate was 9%, and now it's less.
In Tennessee, they've just approved a 62% increase for health care for Obamacare for 2017. In Kentucky, 47%. Iowa, 42%. Nebraska, 39%. It's going up across the board. That was promised to us that they were going to bend the cost curve down, Austin. Americans are dying. They're struggling. They're going bankrupt because they can't afford our own health care.
Let me ask you this, Austin. All right, so you defend the Obama economy.
Sean, you have given Eric whatever this pneumonia thing that you had is. You've now passed it to Eric. Look, you guys cannot get away from the fact that the inflation rate in healthcare was almost 9% a year.
You're repeating yourself.
And it's now down to 3% a year.
We didn't save the money as they promised. We're paying $4,100 a year. We got your point. How do you explain this? Because, Obama said $9 trillion in debt, taking a credit card to the Bank of China in the name of our kids, and ringing up this debt is irresponsible and unpatriotic. He will accumulate, by the time he leaves office, more debt than every president, all 43 presidents before him combined. And we have 1 in 5 American families where not one person in the family is working. How do you make the case that this is a good economy now that he's been in charge 8 years?
Okay. How do you make the case that it's a good economy? I would say it's a pretty good economy, and you make that case by noting, number one, we've had the longest string of private sector job creation in recorded American economic history.
We still have the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s.
Well, because we have the oldest population we've had. You asked me to make the case, so I'm going to make it for you. Number one, we've generated an intensely large amount of jobs in the last 5 or 6 years.
Then why do we have 12 million more Americans on food stamps?
We survived the worst downturn of our lifetimes.
Okay, you're blaming Bush again? It's 8 years later.
Didn't start. We had no depression.
How come we have 8 million more Americans in poverty?
Number 3, poverty, incomes, and food stamps all fell dramatically over the last 12 months. We got the report from the census.
Incorrect. That's incorrect. Forget the jobs. Sean talked to you about the jobs. As far as the recession, this is one of the slowest and worst recovery out of a recession in the history of recessions.
It was, and it no longer is.
Ronald Reagan had almost 8% growth coming out of that recession. But can I just stop right now? Poverty under President Obama. Poverty has done nothing but gone up. Yes, there's a spike down in the last year, but we're up substantial from when President Obama took office in poverty, and our wages for the first time in 8 years have gone up. They've been flat for 7 years, and they just started to go up.
You are insinuating that it has been getting worse for 8 years, and that's completely wrong.
I'm saying
it got intensely worse for 2 years,
15%
and then it has gotten better since then.
Austin, at the end of the day,
that's a win.
Every president
and came up.
Excuse me.
That's not the same thing as going down.
Unfortunately, Austin, it's been going up, and it came down in the last year. That's the reality.
Austin, every president is judged on their 8 years. 12 million more Americans on food stamps, 8 million more in poverty, worst recovery, as Eric said, since the 40s,
guys,
lowest home ownership rate in 51 years, and lowest labor participation rate since the 70s, and he doubled the debt. How is that good?
And here you are, you want my grandma to get back in the labor force, come out of the nursing home, and go back to work.
I think you should be taking care of your grandma. Why are you being such a cheapskate?
Baby boom's retiring.
You're a rich professor. Take care of your grandmother.
Here we are. Here we are. Sean, you still owe me money, but I'm willing to trade any bank account.
You want money for free.
Any of your bank accounts or any of your houses, I'll trade you for my one house and my one bank account.
Austin, I meant every good thing I said about you, except, you are responsible for the worst recovery since the 40s. I'm holding you accountable for that, and thank you for being with us. All right, Eric, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, and coming up, Hurricane Matthew continues to make its way towards the Florida coast. We're going to check back in with our reporters that are on the ground as we continue tonight right here on Hannity. Joining us now live from Tallahassee, Florida, is Jay Huffstatler. He is currently deployed for the American Red Cross as the Director of External Relations for the Hurricane Matthew relief efforts. Can you tell us what's going on? What do you have going on?
Sure. Good evening, Sean. The Red Cross has been really busy. We've continued to bring in assets here along the East Coast. Just last night, across the East Coast, we sheltered over 3,600 individuals in 84 different Red Cross and partner shelters. We've got 90 emergency response vehicles on the ground yesterday ready to send out into the communities once we're able to get in there after the storm moves out. And we also have 500 volunteers on the ground helping and preparing folks here in Florida and along Georgia, South Carolina coast to make sure that they're ready for this storm.
Jay, let's talk about, do you think in the days to come, after the storm surge, after the electrical power is out, do you think you're going to need a lot of help and support in terms of food, medicine, water supply from the rest of the country?
Definitely. We've pre-positioned over 30 trailers of resources across the East Coast to ensure that we can get them out into the communities as quickly as possible. We continue to bring in additional resources, staff, as well as material resources to ensure that we're able to respond very quickly. But we still need a lot of volunteers. If you're in your local community, we're doing a lot of just-in-time trainings across the coast, especially in Florida. So we're encouraging folks to volunteer if they're able to do so.
All right, Jay, stay safe and all your best in the relief efforts for those people that are going to need our help. And coming up, we have more Hannity right after the break as we continue with more live coverage of Hurricane Matthew straight ahead. And this is a Fox News alert. Florida now bracing for Hurricane Matthew. Millions and millions have already been evacuated. Now, unfortunately, that's all the time we have left this evening. Thank you for being with us. Now, stay with the Fox News channel for continuing coverage all night of this deadly storm. Our friend Bill Hemmer is up next. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.